Good, so I think we should start. A little more people coming in. So again, welcome everybody to Make the Most of Marriage, MMM. This is our 11th event, and so we've been running now for a year. And yes, it's a monthly event, and we are looking to obviously have this event as our flagship event, and then expand it into other activities going forward. And obviously, the whole purpose is to support the BFT in this. On to Patrizia, if you could open with a prayer, that would be great. I'll leave it over to you.
Dear Heavenly Parents, thank you so much for this event this evening of MMM. Today is the 25th of February, and we are so happy that we can host this event together with you, with many brothers and sisters from all over Europe and even all over the world. We are grateful that we can spend some time to learn many different things, and how we can connect to each other, how we can connect to you as blessed couples. We really want to open up our heart tonight and listen to our brother Matthew Huish on the topic focus, which is a great topic, which we can help each other to focus on the value that we have inside of ourselves. We please want to invite you to be the best guest tonight for MMM, and we pray that you can protect all brothers and sisters who are joining now at this event. Thank you, Heavenly Parents, to give us this opportunity, and please bless this day, this event, and this staying together so we can build a better community. I say all this prayer in my name and in the name of all blessed couple here, and in the name Patrizia, Kerschbaum-Meyer, blessed center family. Aju.
Thank you so much. Great. So we have some people that have attended, I think maybe every single event. Since we started, and of course we have some new people as well this evening. So what we like to do, because it's a monthly event, we like to just have a quick intro to MMM, just for those people that haven't been here before. So welcome to all of you. And so just kind of the aim of MMM is to create a thriving community of blessed couples through this online event, flagship event every month. And obviously, a big part of that, creating that kind of thriving international community, is that we have these breakout groups. So we learn something from the speaker, and then we go into these breakout groups so we can get to know new couples, but also to digest the material, and to to see how we can grow ourselves, basically, and spend time. Often what many couples do is that they spend time afterwards as well, reflecting, and often there's also been follow-up from the speakers, or there's some kind of follow-up event where people can participate in, or there might be some recommendations for books. Sometimes there's homework to do and all these kind of things. So so it's sort of become a meaningful event for a lot of people, and we hope for the new people that are here tonight that it also can become something that you can attend every month, and obviously it could be a very great benefit to your couple. So we have a staff team, so we're just going to do a quick intro to the staff team. So from left to right, we got Abigail and Victor, we got Andy and Francesca, we got myself and Emma, we got Orlande and Arthur, and we got Trisha and Franz, and we've all sort of been working together from the start on this initiative. And then I was mentioning the Russian translators. So we have Marina Sokorova and Sergio Koskia, who are here tonight. You'll see them, and thank you so much for translating. I'm trying to speak more clearly and slowly so they can follow with because I'm famous for speaking very quickly. So great. So just to be very clear about the format of the evening, so we're going to have our speaker Matthew speak for about 25 minutes, and then we're going to have a quick sort of Q&A with him after that, and then followed by a 5-minute break, and then we're going to go into discussion groups, basically. And the discussion groups are we prearranged, which is why that we need everybody to write their full name. I think a lot of people have done so already. If you haven't, So yeah, I think we're going to go into our main speaker for this evening, which is Matthew Huish. He happens to be my brother-in-law, and I think a lot of people know him or have met him at some point in the life and the movement. And just to introduce Matthew fully, he's now 37 years old. He's the second gen, and he's from the UK. He and his wife Natasha have been married now for 16 years. So they've blessed in July 2004. And they have 8 children, which, if you didn't know that, is probably more than that's probably the only family maybe you know that have 8 people. And now you know a family that has 8 people. But it's lovely. I mean, our kids have a lot of cousins. Let's put it that way. We're very happy about that. And Matthew, at the moment, holds 3 different roles. He's the pastor for the local community here in Bromley, and he's also the assistant national director for FFWP UK. And he's also now the vice president of the North Europe sub-region. Yes, so without further ado, I would like to everybody to say a big welcome to Matthew. Usually a nice big wave because we can't hear everybody. So Matthew, the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you, Daniel, and good evening, everybody. Thank you to MMM for inviting me to speak this evening. So if Andy, if you could just put the slides up, that would be fantastic, but I'll just get started. Who likes being in love? I really enjoy being in love with my wife. And I'm not happy when I'm not in love with my wife. So I have this image here of these glasses helping us to see things clearly, to be for the picture to be in focus. And when I'm in a good relationship with my wife, I feel like my whole world is in focus. When my relationship with her is in focus, everything else is in focus. And when my relationship with my wife is not in focus, actually it puts everything else also out of focus. So for me, it's very important to make sure that my relationship with my wife is stable and strong and secure. But it's also good fun. I really enjoy being in love with my wife, and also when she reciprocates, being in love with me too. And when we're in love with each other, there is a powerful feedback loop whereby we are investing into one another, investing into our relationship, strengthening our relationship, and becoming better people fundamentally. She is trying to make me a better man. I am trying to make her a better woman. And the marriage that we're building, the family that we're building, becomes something that we can offer to our heavenly parent. It can be something that we can offer to the wider community. And so it's very important that this relationship is in focus. And whenever I lose focus of my wife, whether through neglect or distraction, or perhaps even laziness and bad habits, then that inevitably has negative consequences on the whole of my life. I really need to make sure that I'm in focus with my wife. And of course, the opposite of that is being out of focus. And my first message of encouragement to you is do not lose focus in your spousal relationship. As you can see here, there's a gentleman and he's out of focus. In this photograph, the image is actually focused on what's behind him, the leaves on the tree. I've noticed this in my relationship sometimes, where it's not me who's out of focus, but it's Natasha who's out of focus. She might be speaking to me about something that's really important to her, but somehow my attention drifts off. And instead of focusing on her, instead of focusing on what she's sharing and how she's feeling, my thoughts and feelings wander off to something else. I'm not focused on what she's saying. I'm thinking more about the meal plans for the week ahead, because in a family of 10, you need to be very well organized in terms of buying food and preparing meals, especially in our current circumstances under lockdown, where trips to the shops are not very easy, and the weekly deliveries that we're able to order have a limit on the number of items. And so my mind wanders off thinking, right, what are we going to put in the shopping basket for the delivery tomorrow to prepare for the meals for the next week? And then my wife will say, Matthew, you're not listening to me. Don't you love me? Uh, of course, yes, darling, I love you, but I've just committed an unloving act. I've just lost focus of her and what she's saying and how she's feeling, more importantly, because I think as her husband, I need to demonstrate that I'm completely committed to the care of her heart, that she trusts me with her heart, with all of her thoughts and feelings, her ambitions, her desires. And whenever I commit that mistake, it creates a problem in our relationship. It weakens the trust. It weakens the reliability that we depend on one another. So we need to not lose focus. And as parents, especially of young children, there are many things that can distract us. For those of you who are um, who have even graduated beyond having children, maybe now you have grandchildren, you know precisely what I mean. But especially I want to speak to those couples who don't yet have children. Right now, you have a lot of time and a lot of availability in order to show affection to one another. You can take your time in communicating with each other, flirting with each other, even in subtle ways. But as soon as you become parents, that changes. And when I was invited to speak, contributing to this Making the Most of Marriage series, one of the things that was mentioned was, please, Matthew, say something about the marriage relationship in the context of being parents of young children. Maybe many of you are the parents of young children as well, or you're preparing to become parents. And I want to acknowledge, especially for those who are young parents, parents of young children, how hard it is to not lose focus when there are these very big distractions. Now, even if you don't have children, there can be some very big distractions from focusing on one another. The distractions could be financial. Do we have enough money to pay the bills, to pay the rent or the mortgage? Maybe as we are developing our business, we are focused on those things as well. And those things are important. But when I'm spending time with my spouse, am I allowing those important things to interfere in my relationship with my spouse? It could be relational distractions, problems or challenges that we experience in our relationships with our extended family, with our neighbors, with our friends, with our community. There are many things that may be distracting us, and especially when we have young children, they are enormous distractions from the affection that we want to show to our spouse. I've experienced it 8 times now, where my wife gives birth to a newborn baby, and suddenly I'm not the most important person in her world, at least for a few weeks or months, where she is totally committed to the care of this incredibly vulnerable and dependent human being. You know, given the comparison between a newborn baby and a grown-up man in his mid-30s, I think you would say that the grown-up man in his mid-30s could go a few weeks without 100% attention and focus compared to the needs of the newborn baby. And yet it is hard as a husband who, of course, supports his wife in taking care of his baby. But sometimes I would like to spend some time with her as well. Right now, we have very different routines. where usually she is going to sleep much later than I am. She is waking up much later than I am. And so our routines are not in synchronization with each other, which makes even having conversations about simple things not easy. And so in this context of being young parents, I want to acknowledge that it's hard. What I want to do now in this presentation is to share with you some of the chemical tools that we have been blessed with by our heavenly parent. These tools are incredible. The biochemistry that goes on within our bodies, affecting our moods and affecting the way that our body responds to situations, it's incredible. And the more we understand about it, the more we can take control over ourselves, the more we can take control over our minds and our bodies, the more we can take control over our relationship. I think one of the most terrifying feelings I experience when I have lost focus of my wife, or I fear that she is losing focus on me, is the sense of losing control, is the sense of feeling that this relationship is going downhill and that it's not going to get better. That's normal. Yeah, I believe all relationships have their ups and downs. And if you've never experienced the downs before, well, good luck. You're going to experience them soon enough, I'm sure. But as we're going up and down, I think one of those feelings that we might experience is fear. I'm afraid that I'm no longer in love with my wife. I'm afraid for the future of this relationship. Is this going to work? And I want to say that that's perfectly normal. And to help us understand this point a little bit more, I want to reflect on the hormones of focus. I'm using this word focus, but you could replace it with love or attachment. I found this word from an interesting program called Brain Heart World, which was developed by an organization called Fight the New Drug, an organization that's campaigning against the use of pornography and encouraging people to reject not just the use of pornography, but the whole culture associated with it. And in this documentary they made called Brain Heart World, they talked about how one word to help us understand love is this word focus. So that's where I've got it from. But you could substitute it with the idea of love or attachment. So the first hormone that I want us to be aware of is serotonin. Don't worry about the scientific diagram. Maybe if you like chemistry, then this will interest you, but just focus on what it does. And what serotonin does, when our levels of serotonin are at a good high level in our system, we feel peaceful. We feel stable. But when our serotonin levels go down, it raises anxiety. It increases our obsessiveness. And so we can become obsessive and we can infatuate on something. Now, in the context of falling in love with somebody, that's an enjoyable experience. And it has been documented that when people are falling in love, their serotonin levels go down and their level of obsession goes up, which means that when we're falling in love with each other as husband and wife, we have these chemicals working to help us develop a mutual obsession. Thank you, Heavenly Parent, for blessing us with this incredible chemical gift. But hormones go up and down. And so after the initial stage of falling in love, our serotonin levels will return back to normal, or at least they should return back to normal. And this will mean we feel a certain sense of peace and ease. Now, of course, the side effect of that is we no longer feel this obsession. We may no longer feel infatuated with our spouse. And so we might be asking ourselves, why don't I feel crazy, madly in love with my spouse anymore? One reason is because of our serotonin levels. And so this is something for us to appreciate, that especially in the initial stages of a relationship, we have this chemical which helps us develop obsession, but it does wear off after time. Thankfully, this is not the only hormone that we are dealing with in terms of human relationships. There are other hormones as well. And the next hormone that I want to refer to is dopamine. This is the reward hormone. So whenever you do something that your body enjoys or your body perceives to be good, you get this reward. So for example, eating sweet and fatty foods releases a lot of dopamine in our brain because the brain is telling us this is good. From an evolutionary perspective, fatty and sweet food was very rare. And so when you find it, you want to reward the body for consuming it so that it wants to develop an addiction to this thing. And so this is great if the addiction is something healthy. If we are training our bodies to reward our brains with this nice, happy feeling every time we do something good for our spouse, then we become literally addicted to loving our spouse. That's amazing. This is such a tool, a blessing from our heavenly parent. If we develop a life hack, we can hack into our biochemistry in order to make loving our spouse pleasing and enjoyable. So if I set myself a goal to make breakfast in bed for my wife for some period of time, as I said, she's a nursing mother of a newborn baby. I want to do whatever I can to take care of her. And one of the ways I can express that is by giving her breakfast in bed. And so by doing that on a regular basis, I see the smile that's on her face when I perform that good deed. It gives me a sense of reward. It's a rewarding thing to do. And so my brain becomes addicted to wanting to serve and love my wife. And we can experiment with this in so many ways that we can find creative new ways of loving our spouse and becoming addicted to it. That's really exciting. And there is no limit to the scope of creativity in that respect. It becomes like a game. We can gamify finding new ways to love our spouse. The next hormone I want to speak about is adrenaline. So adrenaline is the hormone that we experience when we are usually afraid or excited. It makes us either want to fight or to run away. It makes our heartbeat faster. It makes our breathing faster. And so in the context of being in love with your spouse, it makes us feel very excitable and excited, which again is an enjoyable feeling in the context of the security of the marriage relationship. And this is something that we can also hack into. Just physical activity generally releases adrenaline. So going for a run or doing some exercise, by breathing heavily and raising your heart rate, you can release adrenaline. And so by doing that, it then helps you feel excited. It gives you a sense of being alive. And of course, this is this is very true in the context of physical lovemaking. All of these hormones are involved in the act of love. And of course, an associated hormone, which is released after orgasm, is the next hormone I want to speak about, which is oxytocin. Isn't it interesting how serotonin, dopamine, and adrenaline are so simple compared to oxytocin? These are all amino acid derivatives, but oxytocin is like many amino acids put together, whereas the others are very simple by comparison. What is oxytocin? It's the trust hormone. Experiments have been done with this drug to demonstrate that people become more trusting when exposed to this drug. They're more likely to believe the person that they're speaking with and to feel attached to them. So this is the attachment hormone. It's released during breastfeeding. So a nursing mother will release oxytocin, and also the nursing baby will release oxytocin, which creates an attachment, a bond between mother and child, which is vitally important for the newborn baby. It's also released, as I mentioned, in orgasm. So when we are making love with each other, that nice glowing feeling we experience afterwards is chemical. It's a hormone being released that helps us to feel bonded and trusting our spouse and securely attached to them. But you can release this hormone also by just embracing each other. Physical touch releases oxytocin. Of course, true parents encourage us to go to bed wearing no clothes, and in that sense, as we're hugging skin to skin, we don't have to be making love necessarily, but even just hugging skin to skin releases oxytocin. And my wife and I, we have a routine where usually one of the first things we do in the morning, usually after we're fully clothed, in fact, it's usually in the kitchen once we're sharing our morning coffee together, is we hug each other for 20 seconds. And we just switch off, turn off all the other distractions in the world, and just focus on being in each other's embrace for 20 seconds. Not thinking about anything, not feeling anything, just breathing. And it reminds us that we are indeed a married couple, that we're not just co-parents. We're not just two adults living in the same house, doing lots of different tasks, like taking care of children's education or taking care of meal plans or focusing on a job. But actually also, as well as all of those things, we are lovers. We are intimately connected as husband and wife. So we have these incredible hormones which are helping us if we know how to hack into them, if we are aware of their effect within ourselves. So sometimes some people might say, well, I don't feel in love with my spouse right now. That's perfectly normal, because our feelings are very much controlled by our environment, not just the external environment, but also the internal environment. By that, I mean the hormones, the chemicals flowing around in our bloodstream. So our feelings can often be dictated by the chemicals inside us. But brothers and sisters, I want to encourage you, you can control those hormones based on how you behave. And you can make yourself feel in love again by focusing, by being intentional in giving your spouse the attention they deserve. Don't you feel like you deserve to be the focus of your spouse? Don't you feel loved and accepted and secure when your spouse is completely, wholeheartedly focused on you? And have you noticed that when you show that level of focus to your spouse, they also come alive and feel happy and content? So, in the context of being distracted by many things and knowing what we know about practicing true love as a way to develop these good feelings in ourselves, to create this positive feedback loop, what advice can I give you to help you become more focused, especially in the middle of the storms that happen in our lives? The first piece of advice, there are only two things that I want to share really here. The first is to love louder. Now, when I say love louder, I don't mean you kind of cup your hands into your spouse's ear and yell, "I love you." That might not have the effect you want, especially if they have sensitive hearing. No, what I mean by loving louder is by expressing love more loudly in our actions. What my wife and I have observed as we are raising, especially a young family, is that we simply do not have the time that we want to show love and affection towards one another. So when those rare moments do occur, we are ready to express love as loudly as possible with our words, with our actions. So, for example, I will notice that my wife is stuck on the sofa breastfeeding. And I will ask her, darling, would you like a cup of water? Would you like a cup of tea? Something to serve her. It's a very simple gesture, but I could have ignored her. I could have not noticed. But just by noticing, I make her feel loved. By serving her, I help her to feel loved. Something my wife shared with me is that she sometimes feels like, and I think many sisters can be like this too, although I'm sure many brothers also can be like this, we don't express what we want very clearly. We may be a little ambiguous about what we really want. We say something which drops a hint, and we're expecting our spouse to automatically interpret what that means, but actually the spouse does only hears the words that were said literally and doesn't translate that into what their spouse really wants. That's something that I often ask my wife to do more, to be more explicit in articulating what she wants. And so that's also an aspect of loving louder, by revealing your vulnerability loudly, to express what it is that you want more loudly. Don't just bury and suppress your thoughts and feelings. Share them honestly, openly. Be vulnerable with each other, but also be sensitive and tender with each other. That's what I mean by loving louder. And the last thing I want to share before we conclude is to be intentional with your focus. I hope you understand the reference here, this little reference to the Matrix films where the protagonist Neo is offered a red pill and a blue pill. He has to make a choice. In any given moment, we have the choice to focus on our spouse or not. And I think it's very important that we safeguard our marriages by being intentional about pushing away all the unwanted distractions. Yeah. Affairs don't happen overnight just because you suddenly decide that you want to jump into bed with somebody else. They happen when you allow thoughts and feelings to be cultivated over time, and you're making conscientious decisions to entertain those thoughts and feelings, to enjoy the hormonal rush that you get when you're experiencing obsession with something new, something different. But we need to be intentional about focusing on our spouse and discovering something new about them. Yeah. And it might mean, love can be a bit rose tinted, but sometimes we need to be rose tinted in the love that we share with one another. Don't just focus on the negative things. Yeah. If you are only focused on the negative things, then you become a nagging person, and the person feels like the only thing you care about them is what's negative about them. And that's not a nice feeling. Don't focus only on the negatives, also focus on the positives. And if you're struggling to find them, well, that's your God-given creative mission in your marriage, to look for those beautiful aspects of your spouse's character, your spouse's appearance, your spouse's interests, and to choose to focus on that which is good and to elevate them and to celebrate them. And then if you're able to choose to do that on a regular basis, then you will fall more madly in love with each other, which will then unlock the potential to be able to help each other grow. Then you'll be able to focus on the things that need to improve, because your spouse feels like you're focused on the whole person, not just on that which is negative. And so by regularly choosing to be focused on your spouse, you are choosing to safeguard your marriage, you're choosing to safeguard your family. And I believe that the focus you enjoy in that marriage will multiply into all aspects of your life. It's not just spouses who want to experience this focus. I'm sure our children and all of our friends would also like to experience that kind of focused, loving attention. But let's master it in the husband-wife relationship. Thank you, brothers and sisters.
Well, thank you so much, Matthew. That was amazing. A lot unexpected chemistry lecture too. Yeah, keep your microphone on, Matthew, because we have a little Q&A. But awesome, really, really interesting. And actually, that for me, that's. I mean, I'm a psychology student, so I've taken a whole. This is all my notes. I've taken notes, so I really enjoyed it. Yeah, so there was a lot of things in there. I mean, if anybody had any questions, I think that one question has come in, and there might be, if there's any other questions now based on the talk, you can send them. We'll see if we can cover a couple now. I had a question right away, Matthew, where we could clarify as well. I think for everybody, it'd be great on those four chemicals. Okay, so oxytocin, that one is easy, but some of the other ones, is there some ways of what can we practically do to kind of tap into those other ones? Serotonin. Oh yeah, dopamine was clear to me. Serotonin and adrenaline specifically. I might be putting you on the spot now, but
yeah, you're now revealing how I'm only pretending to know what I'm talking about. I did my degree in biochemistry.
Exactly, I was going to say.
13 years ago, so it's been a while. I feel like I need to do a little bit more in-depth research. One thing I will say, as a scientist, is that it is not as black and white usually as what I just said. What I shared earlier was an approximation. The precise metabolic pathways and interactions that these hormones play is still a field of much needed research. A lot of research is being done to understand the effect of these hormones. For example, it's very well known that serotonin is a hormone which is intimately linked with depression and anxiety. And so by understanding more about what these chemicals do, then the more we will be able to understand their influence in our lives. But what I would say, Daniel, I think is how important it is to focus on our general mental and physical well-being. We talk about mind-body unity as the foundation for the second blessing, really. And if you've ever experienced this in lovemaking, where your mind is distracted by other things, you're not really present and you're not really going to enjoy the lovemaking. And so I feel that actually that is the litmus test of how united are your mind and body in the act of sexuality. If you are really focused and your mind and your body are completely united in worshiping your spouse in the bedroom for their sake, then I find that that's an incredible experience. And whenever there's any kind of interference mentally or physically, it does impair in that, certainly. But then, of course, that translates to all aspects of our life. So I think it's important that we keep in good shape physically and keep in good shape mentally. So it's a simple answer, but it's going to be my answer. That
No, but I think it's great, and I think, I mean, I would say, to summarize that, it's sort of like by focusing, you will be able to tap into these chemicals. Basically, is what I'm getting. Then we can, like, I mean, an example as well. Like you said, like you can actually make yourself excited about being with your spouse, or you can plan something, or you can look forward to spending the evening together in bed, or whatever you're doing. I mean, it generates excitement, and I suppose that is adrenaline, maybe serotonin. Actually, yeah. Somebody wrote in the chat, "Eat a banana." I like that. That's good. Yeah. I mean, there's actually a lot of these chemicals obviously can be tapped in that way, but I think, suppose this is
even that,
focus
Daniel,
on your spouse.
Daniel, that point you made about even just organizing a date night, you can get a dopamine hit through, or you get the adrenaline rush through the anticipation of waiting for the date night to arrive.
Yes.
You can spend the whole day, I don't use this in a crude way, but the whole day becomes foreplay in an emotional sense, in the sense that you're investing in the emotional connection through the expectation of, maybe there's no physical lovemaking involved at all, but I use the language to help us to understand that there's an emotional connection that we're also preparing for, that during the day we're too busy to connect emotionally, but there's an anticipation of connecting, and that creates excitement, that creates a very positive feedback.
Absolutely. I look forward to that. Matthew and Natasha, they live about 15 minutes away from us, and pre-corona and okay, if there's no like very small babies around, we tend to give each other a date night, maybe once every 6 weeks or something like that. So we take turns, take care of each other's kids, so the other people, and that's what I was thinking about now. I look forward to be able to do that again, and that's really recommended actually. If you do have young kids, definitely see if you can, somebody in your family or otherwise, somebody, like a friend, some friends as well that have kids. You can take turns to take care of the kids, so you can go out and focus on your wife. It's very important, very important. Great. Okay, let me see if there was any other question. Yes. Oh, yeah. There's a question here from Patricia who's saying, "What can we tell those who may not be participating in this call, or the people that are participating here? I would say that maybe have lost hope in their marriage, and would inspire them to make a change, or to, I suppose, in this kind of language, refocus on their marriage."
Yeah. Natasha asked me to make this point, and I just ran out of time, so I'm grateful for that question.
Yeah.
Patience and grace are so important. The ability to forgive one another. Love covers a multitude of sins, and certainly I have sinned against my wife many times in the past, but also I have received incredible grace from my wife, and I have tried to show that to my wife as well whenever she has needed it, whenever I've had to let her know that she has hurt my heart in some way, whether intentionally or not. And so by choosing to show grace to one another, it's possible to restart any relationship. I firmly believe that. Even in the most heartbreaking criminal situations, I believe that the true love of our heavenly parent is able to give us the new start that we need. And so that may require a lot of prayer in order to find the heart, the parental heart, to forgive our spouse and love our spouse for whatever hurt they may have caused, or even forgive ourselves if we feel that we are the ones who have caused the pain and we are struggling to forgive ourselves. It's by that overcoming that first characteristic of primary fallen nature, not loving from God's standpoint. We need to love our spouse and love ourselves from God's standpoint. And then when we see ourselves as the children of God who we really are, then we can grow through the four great realms of heart as children, as siblings, and then as husband and wife, and then as parents again.
No, it's really good. Actually, that's the fallen nature thing is really, really good. So, yeah.
No, it's not. Fallen nature is not really good.
Sorry? No, the fallen nature point is really good. It's not good. But what I was going to say is that, not seeing, like, loving your spouse from God's point of view. I think that's I just want to emphasize what you just said that. Because, often we don't. We get into complain mode, or I don't know, whatever. Like, it's seldom, I think, it's seldom I've stopped to say, okay, can I love Emma from God's point of view? So I think I would take that as a takeaway, which is good practice. That's awesome. Okay, so I think we should go into the discussion questions. So let me see. We're going to put them. I think Andy's going to put them up so everybody can see them. There we go. So we've started this thing with sometimes the groups are just coming. Things go really well in the groups, but sometimes there's also kind of a stalemate situation where we don't get the discussions going. So we've started something. We're trying something new. We're testing different things, but at the moment we're calling it. We have a group initiator. So it doesn't mean that you're going to be the person to facilitate the group, but just somebody who would basically get started talking. Because, like I said, sometimes it's just a stalemate and nobody takes initiative to say anything, and that's also not fun for everybody. So tonight, it's based on surname. So if you have the surname that's closest to A, then you're the one who initiates your group. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, it's on the screen as well. So Great. So we could go back to the discussion question. So first, you just do a quick round of So whoever's the initiator would introduce themselves first, basically, and then go around, and then maybe just say something in terms of the talk or something like that to kickstart the discussion. So Matthew, do you want to do your questions that you've prepared and just run us through them quickly? Would that be all right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously introduce yourself. What do you admire about your spouse? Focus on the positive things, but then also let's do some examination about what distracts us. So it could be children, it could be finances, whatever you recognize in yourself. What distracts you, and have you noticed what distracts your spouse away from you? It might be also helpful to recognize that, so that you can have a conversation with your spouse. Darling, I've noticed that you're distracted by this or that. I know it's important to you, but I feel it's taking away from your attention on me, perhaps. And then again, let's share some best practice with one another. Have we developed some habits which have helped us develop greater focus on our spouse? So a great opportunity for you to blow your own trumpet, perhaps, and share some of your victorious experiences.
Fantastic. Great. So so before we go to break, so just a few different points for the group discussion. I think there's a few other points as well. So if there's a help button that comes up when you go into the breakout groups, at the bottom of your screen there is a help button. If you get stuck, or if there's any issues in the group or whatever, you need to speak to anybody. There's a couple of people on standby that can join your group, temporarily or whatever. So yeah, feel free to press that button if you need it. And obviously the questions, you have the questions for when you go into the groups, you won't have the questions. So they're on Facebook, on the MMM group on Facebook, as well as on the email that was sent to you. So maybe keep them at hand for the discussions. And just be mindful that everybody gets a chance to speak, and it sort of shouldn't turn into sort of maybe like a counseling session for one person. So that's just something to keep in mind. And obviously, just to add there, if you do need somebody to speak to, there's a lot of people you can speak to, people in the MMM team. If it's just a kind of a general, that we can point you in the right direction, or just somebody to listen to, or there are on the BFD website some actual counselors you can speak to as well if you do need that, just to add. Great. So we're gonna have a 5-minute break now, and then basically the discussion is a half an hour. So we'll sort of after the group discussion, we'll meet back here at around, I guess it'll be exactly 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, depending on time zone. The main two time zones anyway. Great. So so you're going to be jumping into your group in about 5 minutes time. So have a great group discussion, everyone. And we'll see you afterwards. Welcome back, everybody. This is always, I hope you had a really nice discussion in your groups. Welcome back. I'm just going to say that right away, there is an opportunity to go back into your groups. I'm going to just do like an advert for that after this ending part. So we always keep the groups open. And of course, not everybody can make it because of kids or other commitments, or they need to go to bed to get to work the next day. But just for all the new people as well, just so you know, after this end bit now, then the breakout groups will be opened one more time for half an hour. Cool. So I hope you had really good discussions. If there was any kind of questions or thoughts or reports from the groups that came back, you can share. If you want to share something in the chat, please feel free to do so. We talked a lot about I'm in a group with parents with young kids, so we talked about kids as obviously being the main distraction, and I think we were sort of sharing a little bit about what we do to try to stay focused on each other in our marriages, and some people have already committed to hugging for longer based on what Matthew told in the talk, which is great. Yes. Matthew, are you around, Matthew? I can't see you on my screen, but
I am around.
Oh, there you are. Hello. Great. Yes. So yeah. Good. Yeah, I'm just checking if there's any. I don't think. Yeah, not, it's not always we get any further questions or anything like that. I couldn't see you, Matthews. I just wanted to make sure you're around for the end bit. But that's good. That's good. And also, I have to add as the last point as well. Yeah, I think I'm at least going to go I'm going to go and study a little bit more about these chemicals this week, just to learn a little bit more how we can work with those. I thought it's quite interesting to go into that. Great. So there's a few kind of end points then before I pass over the word to Matthew to conclude. So if you are new, and actually we've had some issues with people that have just signed up that they get the emails and stuff into their spam folders. So if you would want to add MMM's email to your contacts, that would help going forward. And so you don't make sure you get all the MMM emails. And if you do have Facebook, we do have a Facebook group. So please, if you want, after this call, go to Facebook and do like our Facebook, and then that's a nice way to get updated as well. We do advertise all the events. We will also put out a recording of this event on YouTube. That will also be sent to your email. But of course, if it's posted on Facebook, you can share it with family and friends as well. So it's a great resource to have. For our speaker for March, it's going to be David Perry, which I think maybe some people know. We don't have a topic just yet, but if you know David Perry, anyway, now you know that he's speaking next time anyway. Okay, and yes, and then we'll also send out. We always send out a little feedback form afterwards. And if you have a little bit of time, just to give us some feedback, how we can improve the event, any ideas you might have, or just to give us a feedback, we really appreciate it every time. If you've done it many times, we appreciate it equally every time you do it. So we're really grateful for that. And I think if you wanted to share on this slide, we can put up the BFD website and other resources that you can connect into. There you go. We have that's the Blessed Family Department website. You have a lot of resources there to events, and also like I mentioned earlier, if there's also counselors that we have if you want to speak to somebody. And just to mention again, Patricia and myself, we are the main sort of part of the team who will also be happy to speak to anybody as well who just want a first contact or somebody to help to support in any situation in your relationship or things like that, and point you in the right direction. Okay, so I think that was it in terms of announcements. So Matthew, if you want to just do if there was any closing thing you wanted to say or any tips you wanted to give in terms of things like that, and then if you could conclude with a prayer, that would be brilliant. Thank you so much.
Certainly. No, thank you for the opportunity to add something. Something I feel called to say is that a game changer in my relationship with Natasha was when we introduced weekly marriage time into our schedule. So Monday night is holy time for us because we allocate that time as marriage time. I never have, well, first of all, I never do appointments on a Monday. Monday's my family day, but Monday night is marriage time. So the kids know that they should be in bed. They should not be coming into the living room because Mama and Papa are spending time with each other. It could be as simple as a meal ordering in a meal, or watching a movie together, playing a board game together, or just asking each other questions, where we really try not to talk about mission or work or children as much as possible. We're just focusing on each other. Recently, it hasn't been easy, I will admit, because having a newborn is challenging, but we feel that ever since we started that habit 8.5 years ago, things really improved a lot. And also, as Daniel mentioned, we had an arrangement where we were going on a date night maybe once every 6 weeks or so. Just as much as you make Sunday service as time with an appointment with God, I think we should all make appointments with our spouse, not just for our own sake, for our own joy and pleasure, but so that God may bless our relationships. We always begin our marriage time with a prayer, because we know that our marriage, God is a part of our marriage as well, not just the two of us. So with that, I'll conclude and respond to the invitation to pray. So please join me in a word of prayer. Our loving Heavenly Parent, you want us all to experience abundant joy in our marriages. We know how important marriage is as the institution through which you bring two people together who become one. We are creating heaven on earth and in heaven through our relationships. And this most private, most unique, most exclusive relationship of all, I pray we can make as strong, loving, and successful as possible. Heavenly Parent, please bless us all. Some of us may be going through really difficult challenges and may be struggling to see hope. I pray that you will plant the seed of hope in our hearts and guide us along the path to healing, to recover our relationships. And those of us who are in a good place, we want to make it not just good, but great. We want our relationships to be so strong that we will be able to weather any storms that come our way, that you will be able to bless us with the challenges that will help us to grow as incredibly loving couples whose love for each other will inspire us to also love the world around us. Heavenly Parent, we want to conclude this MMM event this evening, offering it to you. And I pray that we can also offer to you our sacred marriages. I report this prayer in my name, Matthew Huish, of a blessed essential family, Arju.
Fantastic, Arju. Thank you so much, Matthew. And thank you, everybody, for coming this evening. I hope you had some good times. And for some people who want to continue having a good time, you can join the group. But I really hope everybody really enjoyed this evening, and we sure did. And I really hope to see you here next time. So have a really good rest of the week, and all the best from us. Take care. Take care. Bye.